It's week 10 of the NFL season, and the Baltimore Ravens are getting ready to host the Cincinnati Tiger Bees on a short week this Thursday at M&T Bank Stadium. Not only is this the second matchup between these two teams this season, it's also the unveiling of the Ravens' new alternate helmet paired with their color rush jerseys that they've dubbed Purple Rising. With the Ravens coming off a 41-10 trouncing of the Denver Broncos, and the Tiger Bees similarly demolishing the Las Vegas Raiders 41-24, both fan bases, as well as the entire nation, are in for a great matchup between these division rivals. While these teams started off the season slow, they are both firing on all cylinders offensively, so this game is likely going to come down to which defense breaks. Let's get to it. Welcome in, everyone. This is Jordan with Ravens Flash Report. Go ahead and give the video a like if you enjoy this Week 10 preview, subscribe if you're new around here, and comment down below your final score predictions for the second meeting between these two teams in 2024. Jumping right into the meat of it, let's talk about the growth of each starting quarterback and how they've played through the first 9 games this season. We'll begin with the visiting Bengals quarterback, Joe Burrow. What you're looking at is the final numbers for Joe Burrow's most recent fully healthy season in 2022. You can see by what I've marked in green and red where Burrow has improved or fallen off with regards to that 2022 season and the pace that he's on for 2024. As you can also see in almost every area of his passing stats, Burrow is having an excellent season. And although it might not mean much, I believe the main reason that Burrow's rushing numbers are down is mainly due to Cincinnati no longer having Joe Mixon in the backfield and going with a committee approach of Zach Moss and Chase Brown. Switching over to Lamar Jackson's numbers when compared with his 2023 MVP season, we see the continual growth of Lamar Jackson as he is showing improvement in nearly every statistical category, with rushing touchdowns being the only area where he's projected to have fewer than he did last season. But I think we all know the reason for that. If I were to point out 2 specific improvements that I think are the most important for Lamar's success this season, it would be his interceptions and his sacks. What these 2 stats show, on some level, is that Lamar Jackson is being smarter with the football and that his decision-making and control of the offense at the line of scrimmage is even higher than it was at this time last year as he continues to grow through his career. Looking at Burrow's numbers and how they are trending over the season versus the last 5 games and versus the most recent 3 games, we see minor changes that are the result of a few important variables. The first, and absolutely the most important, is the health and availability of some of Cincinnati's top playmakers, in particular T. Higgins. Another likely reason for the inconsistent results come from inconsistent play from Burrow himself. Over the last 3 games, of which Higgins has missed 2, Burrow has been less accurate when passing the ball, resulting in fewer yards per game and fewer overall pass attempts. And while he put up 5 passing touchdowns just last week, bringing his total to 8 in the same 3-game stretch, his opponent was a Raiders team with a backup quarterback selling nearly every valuable piece save Max Crosby. Looking at the same time frame and statistical categories for Lamar, we see a much more consistent stretch of play than we did with Burrow. With the exception of the surprising loss to the Cleveland Browns, which was due in large part to injuries to the secondary and poor receiving both by Ravens pass catchers as well as Ravens defenders in the secondary, but with a touchdown-to-interception ratio that's getting better and better as the season goes, as well as an ever-increasing average passer rating, Lamar Jackson is showing everyone not only why he's the frontrunner for his 3rd MVP award, but also the heights to which other competitors have to achieve to even be in the same conversation. Looking back at the Week 5 matchup between the Ravens and the Bengals, we not only remember how close and competitive this game was, but what a potential difference-maker Cincinnati's ground game could be in Thursday's rematch. In Week 5, the Ravens held Cincinnati to a mere 71 yards on the ground, which surprisingly is only the 4th lowest total for Cincinnati this season. But since Week 5 and the emergence and increased usage of Chase Brown in this offense, we have seen a much more potent and effective ground game. While the Ravens' run game pretty much goes as Derrick Henry goes, the same can now be said of Chase Brown in Cincinnati. And while it might be true, the teams like the Raiders and the Panthers aren't exactly tops in the league when it comes to stopping the run, the Ravens haven't been nearly as effective at stopping the run since they last faced the Bengals either. From Week 1 to Week 5, the Ravens' defense was allowing an average of 60.2 rushing yards per game. However, in the 4 games since then, the Ravens have allowed 94.75 per game, a nearly 35-yard per game increase. Staying with that same train of thought, the Ravens' rushing offense hasn't exactly slowed down since their first meeting. And speaking of firsts, we now get to talk about the best running back in the NFL this season, Derrick Henry. While it was mentioned, of course, several times during the Ravens-Broncos game that Derrick Henry already has over 1,000 yards on the ground, I think it's worth bringing up again. Derrick Henry has over 1,000 yards on the ground through 9 games. I'm also sure that most of, if not all of you, have seen the graphics displaying Henry's rank of number 1 in just about every rushing category there is. But just in case you haven't, here's another one. The Ravens' offense with Henry at the front is not only historic, but it's also being done with an offensive line that has had to learn to gel in the first 2 months and had the franchise's worst passing defense on the other side of it, undoubtedly holding back what is one of the best teams in the league. With Henry eclipsing over 100 yards on the ground in at least 5 games so far this year and averaging 116 per game, there's no telling what levels this offense could reach with Lamar and Henry playing as well as they are. If the Ravens defense can play as well as they did against Denver this Thursday night, it's going to be hard for the Bengals to stop this Baltimore team. But of course, for every yin, there is a yang, and last time these two teams met, Cincinnati almost got the better of the Ravens thanks to Joe Burrow throwing for 5 passing touchdowns against this Ravens secondary. With Higgins going for 83 yards on 9 receptions and 2 touchdowns in the first matchup, and he isn't able to suit up for Thursday, that's a huge blow to this Bengals offense. The Ravens may have one less elite wide receiver to worry about at Burrow's disposal. They will still, of course, have to deal with Jamar Chase, who caught 10 passes for 193 yards and 2 touchdowns in their Week 5 matchup. The problem, of course, is that the secondary hasn't exactly stepped up their game since then, continuing to lurk in the bottom third of the league in most passing defensive categories. Despite the matchup issue Chase causes for this Baltimore defense, if Higgins can't play, you can bet your bottom dollar that Zach Orr is going to make sure that Chase isn't able to do the same thing that he did to us last time. While the Ravens secondary might struggle containing Joe Burrow and his weapons like Jamar Chase, Mike Gesicki, and Chase Brown out of the backfield, the Bengals secondary is not exactly going to enjoy having to go up against Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, Mark Andrews, and every other pass-catching option Lamar has been able to hook up with all season. Even last year, the Bengals most likely only concerned themselves with Mark Andrews, OBJ, and Zay Flowers. Now, however, this pick-your-poison offense is in full swing, and everybody is a threat. From the obvious in Zay Flowers to the unsung heroes in Justice Hill and Patrick Ricard. I mentioned before the Buccaneers game that everybody in this offense is a threat from any down or distance, and with Lamar Jackson playing as well as he is, and this Bengals defense being middle of the road at best against the pass, it's anyone's guess which of these Ravens pass catchers will have a big day. There are so many players who could have a huge impact in this game from both teams and on both sides of the ball. Trey Hendrickson now has 11 sacks on the year after exploding last week for 4 in one game. Marlon Humphrey is coming back from a minor injury, but is still the best corner on this team and leads the way with 4 picks on top of it. Mike Gesicki, the Bengals tight end, just had a huge 100-yard day with 2 touchdowns against the Raiders. And we already mentioned Zay Flowers, but Rashad Bateman has also shown to be more than a capable downfield threat, as well as a strong-handed contested catch receiver along the sidelines. The point is, there's more than enough star power and playmaking ability on both of these teams for us to see another game just as exciting as the one we saw in Week 5. And if you know about how these teams play each other over the past few years, the final score may not combine for over 70 like it was last time, but a one-score game is true AFC North football. My final score prediction in this Ravens-Bengals rematch reflects that, as I have it 31-28 Ravens. If you enjoyed this Week 10 preview, go ahead and give it a like. As I said, if you're new around here, go ahead and subscribe. And let me hear from you guys down in the comments section what your final score predictions are. And as always, stay safe out there. Go Ravens.